Hello, friends of chemistry. Martin and I are here. The mangoes are almost gone, but don't worry, we have 2 more problems in Module 9 practice problems to do. Arlie, read us number 9. Yeah, there's plenty of cheese in this video.
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers.
Classify each of the following molecules as ionic, purely polar covalent, or purely covalent.
Okay, so first of all, let's just talk about those briefly. If they're ionic, what will they have in them? A metal. If they don't have a metal in them, they're not ionic. We don't have to worry about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or some kind of ionic, polyatomic, something or other.
Yes.
Okay. What about if they're covalent?
Then you got to then do all the forces pulling on the central atom cancel each other out.
Right. So we have to look at the structure. Okay. So let's begin. Letter A, MgCl2. Any metals in that one? Look at the periodic table.
Yes, it's ionic.
Yes.
Magnesium.
Ionic. That makes it easy. We don't have to draw the Lewis structure.
Uh-huh.
Okay. How about letter B?
Yeah, that's I think that's polar covalent.
That one is not ionic. So we're gonna have to draw the Lewis structure.
Okay.
Where is C?
C is 4A.
So it has 4 valence electrons. How about F?
Uh-huh. F is 7A.
It has 7.
And chlorine is there it is, 7A as well.
So it also has 7. Okay. So you can see what's going to happen. I'm not drawing out all the fluorines, but they are both 7s, since they both have a loose electron, as it were. And this has 4 spaces. So we've got 4 atoms that are going to cluster around this carbon, right? So we're going to have a single bond between them all. So we've got 3 Fs and a chlorine. And they all have their other valence shell is full, right?
Uh-huh.
So they're all full up.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bother drawing in their dots because they're all full up. We know that. We don't need to know that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let us think about what is the shape. Okay? This is generally speaking a what shape? 4 around it. It's a tetrahedral. Okay, it's one of the tetrahedrons, and it is in fact tetrahedral.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in the previous
F and
problem,
Cl have the same amount of valence electrons, so it's
no. Wait. F and Cl have the same number of valence electrons, so they can form a nice tetrahedron here around carbon. However, they do not have the same. What's the important thing that we have to talk about when we're talking about whether the bonds are polar or not? We have to talk about
electric charge,
electronegativity. Don't give me your negativity, Chuck. Yes, electronegativity. So, generally speaking, we're looking at the periodic table. Right?
Mm-hmm.
As you go down, it decreases, and as you go to the right, it increases. Okay, so looking at fluorine and chlorine, you said they're in the same column.
Yeah.
Right? So they're neither to the left or right of each other.
Yes, they are.
Excuse me. They're neither to the left or the right of each other.
Oh, yeah.
One of them is above and one of them is below. Which is above?
Fluorine.
Fluorine is above chlorine. Okay? So that means that as you go down, electronegativity decreases, right? So which one is more electronegative? Negative.
Chlorine.
As you go down, it decreases.
Oh, so then it's fluorine.
Fluorine is more electronegative, okay? So it pulls on the electrons harder than the chlorine does.
Yes.
Okay? So when we draw the bonds, all right, I'm going to, it's pulling which way?
not it's polar covalent.
Right, but they're all pulling out from the carbon.
itself.
Let's look at the carbon. Where is the carbon in relation to the chlorine and the fluorine? Carbon is at the same height as the fluorine, but is farther to the left.
So it's weaker.
So it has a
It's
weaker,
stronger.
a lower. That means these guys are all pulling away from the carbon. So we're going to draw those polar arrows, right?
Yeah.
And we also wanted to look tetrahedral. I tell you, I have the hardest time drawing the shapes. I don't think that they look really anything like the shapes
Mm-hmm.
that they're supposed to look like. So this one is going to be more kind of dotted. And I guess this one would be the strongest one. That's terrible because fluorine is stronger. Okay, so this is a polar covalent, right?
Yes.
All right. In point of fact, we didn't need to draw the whole thing. We just needed to tell whether it's polar covalent or purely covalent. Okay, moving on to letter C. CS2. So we just saw that C has 4 valence electrons, right? How about S? What is S looking like?
S is look, it's
Where's sulfur?
this is 6A.
S is 6A. So it has 6.
Yeah.
And there are 2 of them. Okay, so what is that telling you right away?
Tells us that there's
going to be,
one on each side.
so look, I've got S. Sorry, S is 6. I don't know, I was drawing it as 8.
Mm-hmm.
2, 4, 6. 2 of these, 2, 4. Right, these are double bonds. That's where the other C's went. Okay, so there were 4 electrons around carbon, and there are, it's going to make a double bond with the sulfur. It's going to look like this when you're done. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Is that what yours looked like?
No, I just figured it out without drawing the structures.
It's really important to draw the structure just to help you make sure you see it. So it's covalent, right?
Yes.
Okay, we should have looked at that first of all, but we kind of knew.
I checked my.
So is it purely or polar? Tell me the answer.
Which one? This one.
Letter C.
C. Yeah, that's pure.
Yeah, because it's balanced on either side.
Yes.
Okay, how about letter D, H2? We drew
No,
that
you
in the
can tell- well,
previous
that's
number,
obviously
right?
Purely covalent.
We drew that in whatever
because-
number it was.
Because neither of them are metals, and because they're
Number
the
5.
same, they have the same electronegativity.
Yeah.
So obviously,
That's true,
pure
but-
covalency.
That looks like that. We drew it in number 5. Okay, so we don't need to work it out again. So it's balanced on each side. That's going to be purely covalent.
Yes.
Okay, letter E, SiCl4. Do we have any metals in there?
No,
By chance?
I checked that, but
Uh-huh.
no, it's not.
Okay, so
Well, since
not ionic.
Well, since chlorine fills up all the legs, and it's all chlorine, then also purely covalent.
Yeah, you can see that it's going to have Cl's all around it. And they're going to pull evenly because they're all
This is
chlorine.
the
okay. So this is going to be purely
covalent. Yes.
covalent.
The last one is clearly polar covalent because Cl it only fills up 3 of the legs. So that means
Let's
the force
just
is
check.
pulling on it around even.
Phosphorus is in 5A. So it has 3. We're going to put this Cl, you say, is where?
Around it.
Yeah, but
3.
Cl's in 7. Uh-huh. I just want to know where Cl is so I know what its valence electrons look like.
Oh.
Okay, so Cl's all full up. Okay, now. What do you think, though?
No, it's clearly polar covalent.
It is. It's going to be polar covalent. Why?
Because
they're not
there
actually
isn't-
pulling evenly on this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be polar covalent. So you see that it is important to draw them out and just look at them and see, okay? I thought you said you thought it was purely covalent because they were all the same
No, I
element.
said it's polar covalent.
He
because
was
they're
right because there's
clearly-
only 3. It's a tetrahedral missing a leg. It's fairly obvious. Okay.
Okay.
So
the
now
last
number
one,
10.
Which of the substances in problem 9 would you expect to dissolve in water?
So we said in our experiments and in the review questions, water is polar covalent.
Yeah.
That means
that all the polar compounds and ionic compounds are going to go in that answer.
right. So those
that's
things will dissolve.
A,
So
C, D, and E.
A. I'm sorry.
A, C, D, and E. No, I meant pure covalent.
Take another look at this.
Polar covalent dissolve other polar covalent and ionic compounds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So A is ionic. So now we want, is this polar or purely? Polar. So it's one.
Yes.
Purely or polar? Purely, not one. We said this was purely. Whoops. Purely, so not. Purely, so not. And polar, so yes. So the substances that can be dissolved by water are A, B, and F. Way to go, Smarty. High five. Look at those teeth.
I
Those
hate
are
these things.
$1,000
They are a
teeth.
curse.